Thank you for listening to another episode of the Business of Fun podcast. I am your host, Dave Wakeman. My guest today from Ticket Broker Bookkeeping is Lissa Harris-Suazo. Lissa's very first podcast, so it's very exciting. Also a great one to start the new year on because we talk about bookkeeping, tax season coming up, a lot of things about finance, and your money. Most importantly, your money. So we get into this stuff. Before I tell you about my conversation with Lissa, though, I want to remind you to check out my website. That's davewakeman.com. You can get newsletters there. You can find the store there. You can find a blog. There'll be lots of new stuff coming up this year. So get there early and often. Also, make sure you sign up for the Talking Tickets newsletter at talkingtickets.substack.com. That's where you keep up with all things ticket related. And make sure you check out the link in the show notes for the Talking Tickets Slack channel. Getting close to 400 members there. It's pretty great. It's free to join. I'm going to do a better job of trying to get people to not just hang out in my DMs, but also to chat amongst yourselves. So come join us. This link is in the show notes. So anyway, back to Lissa. Lissa Harris-Suazo, Ticket Broker Bookkeeping. We wanted to talk about finance and some of the financial coaching things that she's working on. We look at it through the lens of ticket brokers who probably have some unique financial needs, but anybody in tickets or the entertainment business probably can learn here. Lissa explains, what good bookkeeping looks like, automated cloud-based systems and the importance, the way that those things can open up visions into your business. We talk about dashboards. Dashboards is something I learned a lot about over the last couple of years, and how important it is to have a dashboard to make sure you're looking at the right things and thinking about the right things, especially when it comes to finance. But that's really just any part of your business. Mistakes people make, the biggest mistakes, setting real goals, making sure you're just really smart about the way you think about your finances. Since this is going to be the second episode of 2026, I thought this would be great. So here is my conversation with Lissa Harris-Suazo on the Business of Fun. All right. I would like to welcome Lissa Harris-Suazo to the Business of Fun. What's up, Lissa?
Hey, Dave. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here and talk bookkeeping for ticket brokers.
Your very first podcast even. So this is going to be either I'm going to do a very good job or I'm going to make this a horrible thing. You're I'm never doing this again. So we'll see.
No, it's going to be great. And I'm excited.
Of course it is. I would not make the joke if I thought it was going to be anything but great. So I was interested when you sent me a note. You're I had never done a podcast before. Would this be something you'd like to talk about? And I was it certainly would, because just being smarter about the way you manage your money, I think, is wise for any business.
Absolutely.
Having worked in the secondary market for a while in a previous version of myself, and understanding the complexity of bookkeeping, I was interested in it because when we ran our business, that was something that ate up a lot of our time, and it wasn't something that I was very good at, to be frank and upfront, so we know where this conversation starts from.
Sure.
So I was curious. So I was let's definitely talk about this, because I think not just the brokers, but just people in general will find something valuable here. So
absolutely.
Let me start, because we are recording this on December 18th. This will probably go out sometime in the first week or so of January, couple weeks of January. So people won't get a whole lot of this information, but I want to start out by understanding how people should be thinking about closing out their books and opening their books for the next year, kind of putting it into one thing and putting a start to another one, so people can even refer back to this next year, or if I can get it out before the end of the year so they can catch it at the tail end, we can do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great place to start. And just a little bit about me, if I can start out with that. Just been in the bookkeeping and the accounting industry for over 25 years in a variety of accounting experiences and from bookkeeping to tax and everything in between. But I'm currently working with ticket brokers and other businesses. But today we're kind of talking about my ticket broker bookkeeping business to help keep their accounting on track, understand their numbers, and grow their businesses to reach their goals, right? So yeah, so this time of year, people are really starting to think about wrapping up the year as far as, we're going to be heading in the beginning of next year, going into tax season. And so we really want to have a good grasp of our numbers and be able to provide the accurate and up-to-date information to our tax preparers, whether it's a CPA or someone else that you have, or even if you do it yourself, but you've got to have that accurate data. So really just pulling together all of the income and the expenses for the year and being able to put that into a manageable format so that you can actually insert it in the right places in that tax return. And so the best way to do that, honestly, I know we're at the end of the year, but kind of keeping up with it throughout the whole year is the absolute best way to be fully prepared and make things easy for you when it comes tax time.
Yeah, I have found that if I do the stuff all throughout the year, it's better. I mean, that's just across the board stuff. But you talked about manageable format. What do you mean by a manageable format? In case somebody doesn't understand, because this is like a question that that would have come to mind for me 10, 15 years ago when I was involved in this.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, it varies. I mean, it varies what people are doing currently, but I've seen everything from business owners and ticket brokers managing everything on spreadsheets and maybe 10 spreadsheets and trying to, pull it all together. I've seen business owners that are just pulling together straight off of a bank statement or 10 bank statements. And, thinking about bank statements, you've got 10 accounts between credit cards and banks, maybe. Then you've got 12 statements for a year. And so that's like 120 statements. And then who knows how many transactions on each date. So, I mean, that's not really manageable in my view. So what I like to think of as manageable is having an actual accounting system in place that is automated and can do a lot of that work for you, and so that you have that information at the touch of a button. And that's what I'm all about, is trying to help business owners get that put in place.
One thing you mentioned to me in the notes that we were trading back and forth was that you wanted to be able to get brokers away from spreadsheets. And what do you mean by that?
Yeah, for sure. I want to set them up with an automated cloud-based accounting system that really takes, everything, all those transactions, literally every day. With my clients, I'm in there every single day categorizing and handling the transactions that come through, because ticket brokers especially are dealing with just a huge volume of transactions usually. Even if you're just starting out, it's going to be a lot. But as you're growing, we're talking hundreds and maybe even thousands of transactions in a day or a week. And so it's important to be in there every single day. And that's just not really practical in a spreadsheet format. So getting you set up on a cloud-based automated accounting system really is the way to go.
So let me make sure I understand. So the part of the beauty of getting people away from the spreadsheets and get them into the cloud, kind of a consistent thing, right? Because you said daily, and I was going to ask why, and you explained it. But it's about the consistency. Is because you have hundreds or thousands of transactions a day, and it's because you have just the quantity of data, right, coming in, and it's about really like just. To me, I think it's about the variation in the numbers, because it's like, if you're reselling, and this probably applies everywhere, it's like coding for different transactions, coding for different expenses and costs. It gives you a better grasp on your numbers, right? Because you can tell about the health of your business a little bit more consistently. Would that be accurate? Because
absolutely.
because, to me, one of the questions I wrote down was like, how is it different being a bookkeeper for brokers than it is for other people? And I was like going, I think it's just the sheer volume, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so let's speak on that for sure because it does make a difference. I mean, all businesses have similarities, but for ticket brokers specifically, they're dealing with very high transaction volume, as I mentioned, multiple sources of capital, or in other words, ways that they're trying to, money sources that they're using to make their inventory purchases. They're dealing with multiple sales platforms, so sales coming in from Ticketmasters, sales coming in from StubHubs, whatever the case may be. And their cash flow is constantly shifting. So if you think about it, if you're not keeping up with those transactions on a day-to-day basis, they're really kind of flying blind because yes, they are dealing with a huge volume of information, and how can you really analyze and utilize that information if you don't keep up with it every day and it's just so overwhelming?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, totally makes sense. And one thing that came to mind as you were talking about, all these inputs, all these things, is um, when I was on the board of a nonprofit, I used to look at this dashboard that we had access to all the time. And is that something that like brokers and like people in tickets should have access to? Is it, is that something that's helpful? Or is
Oh,
that like a good way of thinking about things? I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, my finance skills are like not my strongest. I'm much better with branding and strategy, but I know enough how
no.
to get dangerous.
Well, that's totally, I mean, that's the norm, right? So that's why people like me are here because nobody gets into the business that they're in, whether it's ticket brokers or anybody else, just to, do the bookkeeping and figure out what the numbers mean. But yes, a custom dashboard is actually a new service that I'm launching currently. And so the benefit of having that dashboard is being able to really kind of see a visual of your most important, or we call them KPIs, which are key performance indicators. So being able to see the trends in your numbers and the story that your numbers are telling in a visual representation is a
Mhm.
lot easier to understand and a lot more digestible than just looking at numbers on a page. So absolutely, I would say, dashboards are definitely um, a big help for anybody, but for ticket brokers especially.
Yeah. And you mentioned the most important KPIs. Are those consistent across the people you work with? Do you have like like a few that you really highlight for people, or is it kind of which probably is my way of thinking about it, a little more dependent on what your goals and like your specific business looks like? How does that pan out for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, what I would do would be I would have a conversation with someone who's interested in this type of custom dashboard. And we would talk about the goals that you've set, whether it's goals for the next 30 days, the goals for the next 6 months, goals for the next year, goals for the next 5 years or 10 years, whatever makes sense to you and whatever I can help kind of advise on. Then we're going to talk about, well, what are those key performance indicators that are really going to move those goals forward? And so, yeah, there are some general ones that work for any business, like maybe gross profit margin, gross revenue trends,
Hmm.
return on an investment. So those are the ones we would probably focus on first, but there also are some other ones specific to ticket brokers. And we could get into talking about some of those if it seems like those would be helpful. But I do want to just say that I have a free gift for your listeners today, and
Yes.
it's called the Ticket Broker Profitability Guide. And in that
Okay.
guide, I go through actually several more almost industry specific KPIs for ticket brokers. So that would be a great thing for anybody that's listening, that's a ticket broker, for them to go ahead and go to my website and download that and just see
We'll
what
put a link to it in
specifically
the
that
show
means.
notes. That way they can like get it right from the show notes.
Love it.
See, I'm
Awesome.
good like that.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, because
So
I
yeah,
don't want to
there's
get too.
general and there's specific.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the too many specifics because there's going to be a wide range of people listening to it. I just didn't know if it was like a like a templated way or if there was like customization because one of the things that I struggle with when I talk to people is like going, it's not a cookie cutter business, and that doesn't not just a secondary market. It's like any of these businesses people are dealing with. There's got to be some specificity to it. So that was where I was coming from with it.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah. And you're
as opposed to
absolutely right.
yeah, because if you and this is the way I explain to people, I go, if I'm trying to copy Joe's business over here, or actually Josh, my neighbor Josh, I'm trying to um, mimic Josh's business. I'm assuming he has the same target audience I do. He's dealing with the same purchases, the same financial decision. He's doing things the same way, except for he knows more than I do. And that's not necessarily a good bet to make. And that's why I'm always like going, there needs to be some specific consideration to your circumstances. So that's good to know that like there's some good rules of thumb, but we get in deep because I think that specificity is what really can help people understand how to manage their business better. Or I know it is, because again, I'm able to come at this from some of the mistakes that we made
For
when we were,
sure.
so
And
let me,
you're right. I
go
mean,
ahead.
the goal, I just wanted to elaborate
Yeah, go
just a
right
little
ahead.
on that. So really it's about the goals, and that's what makes every different business unique, is working towards their specific goals, and everybody has different goals. So that's where the kind of the customization, if you will, would come into play. Working with me, I would make sure that we're just really focused on what your goals are for your business.
Yeah, I think that's a really like the most important thing that people can take is like it has to be about your business, right? And anybody who's trying to force you into a cookie cutter, you probably should be a little bit skeptical of them because nobody's numbers, nobody's business is going to be exactly the same.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
So let me ask you about this then, because again, I'll put myself on the spot because I think this is helpful for people because a lot of times, especially when it comes to me, is like when I tell people I've done something one way or even better when I screwed up something another way. And this example in question is going to fall into that latter category. It helps because then people don't think I'm trying to be infallible, which I never am. But let's say I'm a new broker or I'm someone who was like me when I was younger and kind of didn't know a lot about finance. Like I know a lot more about it now because I go around and I ask people like when I was on board, I asked people about the financials that I needed to know and like how to make better financial decisions for an organization. How do you deal with that? Is there like a way that like you kind of coach people through these decisions? Is there like a framework you use to like help guide people to help them make better decisions? Like how do you help get people to a point where they're a little more financially competent?
Yeah. Well, great question. And I would say, first of all, to your point about, making mistakes or not knowing what you don't know, I mean, that is so absolutely common. I think that I talked to you earlier, but just about how nobody gets into their business, wanting to become an
Absolutely.
expert in accounting. So listen, no judgment here. It doesn't matter where you're at or what you've done. When you come to me, I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to help you. I just want to
Mhm.
help. And so the best way that I can help, for instance, you said somebody's starting out. Well, they are probably just completely confused, could be completely confused on where to even start. So for me, I'm going to help them understand how, important it is to have a solid financial foundation under their feet. If you think about building a house, you're not going to build a house on quicksand. You want that solid concrete foundation. And so I'm going to help them put that in place. And then as they grow, I'm going to be helping them either by me taking care of taking care of the day-to-day bookkeeping for them. I'm going to be keeping everything on track. I'm going to keep it accurate and up to date. Or if they're doing it themselves and they just want to do it themselves, then I can come in. I'm meeting the business owner where they're at. So I can come in and take a look. Well, what have you been doing? Does it look accurate? What needs to be fixed? So there's an option that we could go that route. And then as they're more established and they're ready to kind of scale and take their business to the next level, then we're talking about mentorship, where I come in and I would meet with you on a regular basis, and we're going to really analyze those dashboards and the trends and your numbers, and we're going to really kind of apply those to the goals that you want to get your business to the next level and figure out what are the actionable steps that you need to take. So it really depends where your business is at, but I'm here for all of it.
All right. Well, let me ask you then, like kind of a flip side of this question then, because I think what stood in my way, again, I hope this is helpful for people, because I'm putting myself back in like 30-year-old Dave was those kind of questions when I was like, kind of like you said, didn't know what I didn't know. And probably one of the big mistakes that I made was not being willing to ask for help early on. I think a second one, for me would have been, not appreciating the importance of managing things as regularly as you did. And fortunately for me, I had partners that were better at that than I was, so that didn't hamstring me as much. I was still great at marketing, so it worked. But what are some of the most common mistakes that you see people making when it comes to the accounting and the financial health of their businesses? And like, how do people sort of overcome those maybe limiting beliefs, or those sort of I think a lot of times maybe they have just like sort of fallacies built up in their head that stop them from asking for help.
Yeah. Well, and that's totally, normal. I mean, I think we're all humans in a way have this part of them that wants to feel like, oh, I've got this, I can do this on my own. But really, when you start to feel frustration, a great deal of frustration, and if it's keeping you up at night, if you're just a lot of confusion, that's when it's good to know, hey, I'm not really going to be able to move my business forward unless I get some help. Like, for instance, think about when you have maybe illness or something that maybe you've been coughing for a few weeks and you just want to take your cough medicine, and you think you can handle it, it's no big deal, but it just keeps getting worse and worse. Well, eventually you're going to have to reach out to somebody who's got the knowledge and the ability to help you, like a doctor. So I'm kind of like the doctor in the financial situation, where you're really struggling, you're confused, you're overwhelmed, and then you want to do it yourself, but you come to the realization that, I need some help. So then it's really a great idea to reach out to a professional like me and just get the help that you need to move your business forward. And then if I could just kind of speak to the question you had about the biggest mistakes that I see business owners in general, but also ticket brokers making, is, and especially the new guys, are mixing personal with business funds. And so that's a big one at the start. They don't know that they really need a separate checking account, and they need separate credit card accounts, and keep your business on one side and keep your personal on the other. Because to be honest, the IRS gets extremely upset, and it's actually a requirement, an IRS requirement, to keep everything separate. So I know in the beginning you don't have a lot of funds and you kind of have to supplement everything with your personal, and that's fine, but just keep it in a different account. So I would say that's the biggest thing for beginners. I would say also the people that have been in it for a little while, just disorganization in their financial structure, like we already talked about, keeping stuff unorganized in spreadsheets or just on bank statements and not really having it all in one easy to access platform. And then for the more advanced ticket brokers, maybe it's just not really understanding their numbers, not really being able to identify the trends, and all the goals, and even thinking about the goals that will help their businesses advance. So that's what I would say as far as mistakes.
Yeah, I didn't even really, I should have thought about the keeping your business and your personal separate, but I didn't even. You see how easy it is to make the mistake.
Well, you are not the only one. So, I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why it's such a big deal, because everybody does it in the beginning, especially.
Absolutely. Yes, it is absolutely true. Because that one should have been the first one I thought of, even because that was like, at least for, it wasn't a big deal, but it was what it was messy.
A big hassle. Trying to sort that all out at the end of the year is such a nightmare.
Yeah, that was really
envision people with their little bank statements highlighting each line that's a business versus a personal, and then trying to extrapolate that and add it all. Oh my gosh, it's just can be a nightmare.
All of a sudden, that nice week between Christmas and New Year that we weren't going to really do a lot became a week where you're sitting there with like yellow and green highlighters.
Totally.
And it was like took days to go through. Yeah. Thousands of transactions. Yeah, no, that's absolutely
so much for heading out for a ski trip or to make that snowman.
That's exactly right. Or just like watch a movie and drink a beer is really what I would be doing. But so listen, how can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, awesome. So if any listeners out there are looking for some help like that we talked about today, you could email me at hello@ticketbrokerbooks.com. Or if you want to even learn a little bit more about my firm and what I do, please visit my website, which is ticketbrokerbooks.com, of course. And on that website, again, I want to just refer back to the free gift that I want to give the listeners. On that website, if you click on the resources tab, it's going to drop down and you're going to see that Ticket Broker's Profitability Guide there. And there's also some other great information, but one thing is there's a contact form that you can fill out. So that also is an alternative way to get a hold of me. And then last but not least, you can also find me in my Facebook group. So if you head over to Facebook and in the search bar, you click on Financial Coaching for Ticket Brokers. You're going to find my group there, and I would love to have you in the group. We just talk about, sometimes we've got motivational posts, sometimes we've got informative posts, and so it's just a lot of kind of great information for ticket brokers there.
Awesome. Well, listen, now that we've gotten to the end of this first podcast, how did you think it went?
I thought it was so much fun, and I actually really enjoyed it. It wasn't as scary as I thought maybe it was going to be, and you made it really easy, so thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
What did you think about my conversation with Lissa? Send me an email and let me know. It is dave@davewakeman.com. As I mentioned at the start, check out my newsletter. It's Talking Tickets, and you can get it at talkingtickets.substack.com. And visit the Dave Wakeman website at davewakeman.com. Since you made it this far into the podcast, I know you love me, so thank you for that. But do me a favor, rate and review the podcast and tell people how much you enjoy it. It helps the podcast be discovered. It helps me continue to get great guests, and it gives me a little encouragement because I'm a sucker for that positive reinforcement thing. And share these episodes with Lissa, the one from earlier in the week with Josh Litwack, or any of the other great ones that we have with people in your network, friends, coworkers, colleagues that you believe will benefit from a conversation like the one today with Lissa or any of the other ones. It helps me continue to grow the podcast, and I appreciate it. As I always say at the end of these things, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy.